The morning sun rose over New Busan like a dying flame. Captain Lee Hyun-woo crouched behind a broken concrete wall and watched the alien ships land in the distance. Their black metal hulls gleamed in the orange light. Smoke rose from the burning city behind him. "How many do you count, Captain?" Sergeant Park Jin-ho whispered beside him. His rifle was ready, but they both knew human weapons barely scratched alien armor. "Too many," Hyun-woo replied. He looked through his binoculars at the landing zone. The Kethran soldiers were already pouring out of their ships. They moved like liquid metal, their purple skin covered in energy shields that shimmered like soap bubbles. At least 200, maybe more. Private Kim Sora crawled up to them, her sniper rifle strapped to her back. "Captain, command says, we need to hold Meridian Valley for 6 hours. The evacuation ships need time to get the civilians out." Hyun-woo lowered his binoculars. 6 hours. They had 37 soldiers left from what used to be a full company of 150. The Kethran had been hunting them for 3 weeks. Every day, more of his people died. Every day, the aliens got closer to the evacuation zone. 6 hours, he repeated. "We can do 6 hours." Jin-ho looked at him like he was crazy. "Captain, their plasma rifles can cut through our armor like paper. One shot and we're gone. How are we supposed to hold anything for 6 hours? Hyun-woo stood up slowly. His armor was dented and burned from a dozen close calls. His left shoulder still hurt from where alien shrapnel had torn through it yesterday. But he was still here, still breathing, still fighting. "Because we don't have a choice," he said simply. The Kethran Empire had been conquering planets for 300 years. They had better weapons, better ships, better everything. When they invaded a world, they expected quick surrender. Most species gave up after seeing what Kethran plasma weapons could do to living flesh. But humans were different. Maybe they were too stupid to know when they were beaten. Maybe they were too stubborn to care. Hyun-woo had stopped trying to figure it out. All he knew was that his job was to buy time and he was going to do it. "Positions," he ordered. "Sora, take the high ground. Jin-ho, take Team 1 to the left flank. I'll hold the center with Team 2. They moved quickly. Hyun-woo had trained these soldiers for 2 years before the war started. They knew how to work together. They knew how to make every bullet count. They knew how to die well if they had to. The Kethran came at noon. They moved across the valley like a purple wave. Their energy shields glowed in the sunlight. Their plasma rifles hummed with deadly power. They walked in perfect formation, not even bothering to run. Why should they? Human weapons were toys to them. "Wait for it," Hyun-woo spoke into his radio. "Let them get close." The aliens crossed half the valley, then 3/4. Hyun-woo could see their faces now through his scope. They looked bored, like this was just another easy job. "Now," he whispered. 37 human rifles opened fire at once. The sound was like thunder rolling across the valley. Bullets sparked off energy shields and alien armor. A few Kethran stumbled, but most kept walking. Then Sora's sniper rifle boomed from the hilltop. She had found a weak spot in one alien's shield. Purple blood sprayed across the rocks. The Kethran stopped looking bored. "Incoming!" Jin-ho shouted over the radio. The return fire was devastating. Plasma bolts turned rocks to glass and metal to slag. The air itself seemed to burn. 3 of Hyun-woo's soldiers died in the first volley, their bodies simply disappearing in flashes of superheated gas, but the humans kept firing. Every time a Kethran raised his weapon, a human bullet found him. They couldn't penetrate the energy shields easily, but they could make the aliens work for every step forward. "They're flanking left," Sora reported. Her rifle spoke again. Another alien fell. "Team 3, shift right," Hyun-woo ordered. "Don't let them surround us." The battle raged for an hour. The Kethran pushed forward meter by meter. The humans fell back step by step. Bodies littered the valley floor, most of them human. Then General Vextar himself appeared. Hyun-woo saw him through his binoculars. The Kethran commander was taller than the rest, his armor more elaborate. He carried a weapon that looked like it could punch holes through starship hulls. "All units, focus fire on the big one," Hyunwoo commanded. 20 rifles turned toward Vextar. Bullets bounced off his personal shield like raindrops. The alien general looked up at the human positions and seemed to smile. He raised his massive plasma cannon and aimed it directly at Hyunwoo. Time slowed down. Hyunwoo could see the weapon charging up. Blue energy swirled in its barrel. He could hear Jinho shouting his name over the radio. He could see Sora trying to line up a shot from her distant perch. The plasma cannon fired. The bolt of energy hit Hyunwoo square in the chest. It should have vaporized him instantly. It should have turned him into a cloud of superheated particles. It should have ended the battle right there. Instead, Hyunwoo staggered backward 3 steps and stayed on his feet. The entire battlefield went silent. Hyunwoo looked down at his chest. His armor was melted and blackened. He could smell his own burned flesh. Blood ran down his uniform in dark streams. He hurt everywhere. Every breath felt like swallowing fire. But he was alive. More than alive. He was angry. "Is that all you got?" he shouted across the valley. Vextar stared at him. The other Kethron stared too. In 300 years of conquest, no being had ever survived a direct hit from a Kethron plasma cannon. It was impossible. It defied every law of physics they knew. Hyunwoo raised his rifle and fired. The bullet struck Vextar's shield and bounced off harmlessly. But the message was clear. The human was still fighting. "All units, advance," Hyunwoo commanded. His voice was steady despite the pain. "Push them back." The humans charged. Not because it made tactical sense, not because they had a plan. They charged because their captain had taken an impossible hit and refused to fall down. They charged because sometimes courage is contagious. The Kethron broke and ran. They had conquered 17 star systems. They had faced every kind of enemy the galaxy could produce. But they had never faced anything like this stubborn human, who simply would not die when he was supposed to. As the alien ships lifted off in retreat, Jinho ran to his captain's side. "How are you still standing?" he asked in amazement. Hyunwoo looked at the burn mark on his chest. He didn't know how to answer. He just knew that falling down had never been an option. Not today. Not with civilians depending on them. "Because someone has to," he said finally. The evacuation ships got there 6 hours. Every civilian made it off New Busan safely. And across the galaxy, word began to spread about the human soldier who had survived the unsurvivable. The legend of the unbreakable man had begun. Dr. Yoon Mi-kyung had seen many wounded soldiers in her career, but none like Captain Lee Hyunwoo. She stood in the medical bay of the human fleet flagship, studying the man who should have been dead 3 times over. "Hold still," she said as she ran another scanner over his chest. The burn mark was still visible despite 2 weeks of treatment. "I need to understand what happened to you." Hyunwoo sat on the examination table, uncomfortable with all the attention. "I got shot. I lived. What else is there to understand?" Dr. Yoon shook her head. She had been studying alien technology for 5 years. She knew exactly what Kethron plasma weapons could do. They broke apart living cells at the molecular level. Nothing survived a direct hit. Nothing except this stubborn soldier. "The energy reading from that weapon was enough to kill 10 humans," she explained. "Your armor readings show complete system failure. Your heart should have stopped. Your nervous system should have shut down. According to every medical text, I know you should be dead. But I'm not," Hyunwoo said simply. "No, you're not. And that's what I need to figure out." Commander Choi Dae-ho entered the medical bay. His face was grim as always these days. The war was not going well for humanity. Every week brought news of another lost colony. "Doctor, what's your progress?" he asked. Dr. Yoon turned to her computer screen. Charts and graphs filled the display. "I've been comparing human and Kethron biology for the past week. The differences are remarkable." She pulled up 2 images side by side. One showed a human body, the other a Kethron. "Look at this," she continued. "Kethron organs are perfectly designed. Everything has a single purpose. Their hearts pump blood efficiently. Their nervous systems respond logically to damage. When their bodies are injured beyond repair, they shut down cleanly. Hunwoo looked at the alien anatomy. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Every part worked perfectly with every other part. Now, look at human biology, Dr. Yoon said, highlighting the human image. We're a mess. We have backup systems for our backup systems. Our adrenaline can override pain signals. Our brains can ignore what our bodies are telling them. We have redundant blood vessels, extra nerve pathways, and organs that can function even when badly damaged. Commander Choi studied the images. So we're tougher than they thought? More than tough, we're chaotic. The Kethran designed their weapons to shut down logical biological systems, but human biology isn't logical, it's stubborn. Dr. Yoon pulled up Hyunwoo's medical readings from the battle. The numbers made no sense. When that plasma bolt hit you, your heart did stop, she told him. For almost 10 seconds, but your backup circulatory system kicked in. Your brain released massive amounts of emergency chemicals. Your nervous system rerouted around the damaged areas. You should have collapsed, but your body found 17 different ways to keep you standing. Hyunwoo touched the scar on his chest. I remember thinking I couldn't fall, the civilians needed more time. That's the key, Dr. Yoon said excitedly. Your psychological state affected your physical response. Kethran minds are logical. When they're hurt badly, they accept it. But human minds can convince human bodies to ignore damage that should be fatal. Meanwhile, on the Kethran flagship, General Vexitar watched the battle footage for the 100th time. He had replayed the moment over and over, trying to understand what he had witnessed. His aide, Commander HFY, stood beside him. General, our weapon readings confirm a direct hit. The energy discharge was lethal. I know what I saw, Vexitar growled. The human should be dead. Our weapons have never failed before. Perhaps there was a malfunction in the cannon? No. Vexitar paused, the footage at the moment of impact. Look at the human stance. He doesn't dodge. He doesn't try to block. He takes the hit and stays standing. This is impossible. HFY shifted nervously. The story of the unkillable human was spreading through the Kethran fleet. Some soldiers were starting to whisper that humans might be more dangerous than anyone realized. What are your orders, General? Vexitar studied the frozen image of Hyunwoo. The human looked ordinary, not particularly large or strong, but something in his eyes was unsettling. It was the look of someone who simply refused to quit. Double our weapon power on all future engagements with humans, Vexitar ordered. If one shot isn't enough, we'll use 2. Or 10. Whatever it takes. But even as he gave the order, doubt crept into his mind. In 300 years of conquest, the Kethran Empire had never had to adjust their tactics. Their weapons worked. Their strategies worked. Everything worked according to plan. Until now. Back in the human medical bay, Dr. Yoon was explaining her findings to a group of military scientists. We've been thinking about this war all wrong, she said. We've been trying to match their technology, their efficiency, their logic. But that's not where our advantage lies. She displayed brain scans from human and Kethran subjects. Humans have something the Kethran lack entirely. We call it determination, but it's more than that. It's the ability to function beyond rational limits. When a Kethran is injured, their brain calculates the damage and responds appropriately. When a human is injured, their brain can choose to ignore the damage entirely. Colonel Nam Ki-tae, the fleet's chief strategist, leaned forward. Are you saying we can train soldiers to be like Captain Lee? I'm saying Captain Lee isn't special, Dr. Yoon replied. What he did is something any human can do. We just need to understand how. She pulled up genetic charts showing human evolutionary history. Humans spent millions of years surviving against impossible odds. Saber-toothed tigers, ice ages, plagues, natural disasters. We're the descendants of the ones who refused to give up when logic said they should. That trait is built into our DNA. Hyunwoo listened from his hospital bed. So what happens now? Dr. Yoon smiled. Now we start teaching other soldiers how to be as stubborn as you are. The next day, news arrived from the front lines. 3 more human soldiers had survived direct hits from Kethran plasma weapons. They had all heard the story of Captain Lee Hyunwoo. They had all decided that if he could take a shot and keep fighting, so could they. The Kethran commanders were baffled. Their perfect weapons were failing against an enemy that simply refused to die when they were supposed to. Dr. Yoon reviewed the reports with growing excitement. "It's spreading," she told Commander Choi. "The psychological effect is real. When humans believe they can survive, their bodies find ways to make it happen." "How many more?" Choi asked. "All of them, eventually. Every human soldier who hears this story becomes a little harder to kill. We're not just fighting with weapons anymore. We're fighting with willpower." On the Kethran flagship, Vextar stared at the latest battle reports. Human resistance was stiffening across all fronts. Soldiers who should have been killed by the first volley were getting back up and returning fire. "General," Hexaval said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our strategy." Vextar's eyes narrowed. "No, we'll increase the pressure. If humans think one of their soldiers is unkillable, I'll prove them wrong personally." But deep in his mind, a new thought was growing. What if the humans weren't just lucky? What if they really were different from every other species the Empire had conquered? What if the Kethran had finally met an enemy they couldn't defeat through simple technological superiority? The thought terrified him more than he cared to admit. 2 months after Meridian Valley, Captain Lee Hyunwoo had become the most famous human in the galaxy. Every soldier knew his story. Every civilian had heard about the man who couldn't be killed. The news channels called him a hero. The military called him a weapon. Hyunwoo just wanted to do his job. "Target is the Kethran supply depot on Kepler 7, Commander Choi explained during the mission briefing. "Intelligence says it's heavily defended, 40 alien soldiers plus automated defenses." Sergeant Park Jin-ho looked at the mission photos. 40 against 8 of us, those aren't great odds." "They don't need to be great," Private Kim So-ra said with a grin. "We have the captain." Hyunwoo frowned. He didn't like being treated like some kind of miracle worker. "I bleed just like everyone else," he reminded his team. "Don't take stupid risks just because you think I'm bulletproof." But even as he said it, he knew the words carried no weight. His soldiers had seen him take hits that should have killed him 3 times over. They had watched him walk through enemy fire like it was rain. Faith in their captain's invincibility had made them braver, stronger, more willing to follow him into impossible situations. The raid began at dawn. Hyunwoo's team landed their dropship 2 kilometers from the depot and moved in on foot. The supply facility was built into a natural canyon, with energy barriers blocking both ends. Guard towers dotted the rim, their sensors sweeping constantly for intruders. "Sora, can you take out those sentries?" Hyunwoo whispered into his radio. 3 shots, 3 kills, she confirmed from her sniper position. Her rifle spoke quietly, and 3 Kethran guards fell from their towers without a sound. "Jin-ho, take your team around the east entrance, wait for my signal." They moved like ghosts through the alien compound. Hyunwoo had learned to fight smart after Meridian Valley. Being hard to kill didn't mean he should make it easy for the enemy to try. The first alien patrol never saw them coming. Human knives slipped between armor plates, finding the weak spots that months of fighting had taught them to exploit. 6 Kethran soldiers died in silence. Then, someone triggered an alarm. The depot exploded into activity. Emergency lights bathed the canyon in red glare. Alien voices shouted in their harsh language. Heavy footsteps echoed off the rock walls as more Kethran rushed toward the disturbance. "Contact front," Jin-ho reported over the radio. 10 aliens moving toward your position." Hyunwoo's team took cover behind a stack of supply crates. Plasma bolts started flying overhead, turning metal containers into molten slag. "Captain, we're pinned down," called Private Lee Dong-soo. "They've got us in a crossfire." Hyunwoo looked at the tactical situation. His team was trapped in the open with enemies on 3 sides. By all military logic, they should retreat, cut their losses, try again another day. But Hyunwoo had stopped caring about military logic. "Cover me," he said, and stepped out into the open. The first plasma bolt hit him in the shoulder, spinning him around. The second caught him in the leg, dropping him to one knee. The third struck his helmet, filling his vision with sparks and Static. He kept walking forward. The Kethran soldiers stopped firing. They stared in disbelief as the human picked himself up and continued advancing. His armor was smoking. Blood ran down his face from where helmet fragments had cut him. But his rifle never stopped firing and his aim never wavered. Impossible, one alien whispered in his own language. Hyun-woo understood enough Kethran by now to know what they were saying. He smiled grimly and put a bullet through the speaker's energy shield. His team rallied behind him. Seeing their captain walk through enemy fire like it was nothing filled them with wild courage. They charged, the alien positions, screaming battle cries that echoed off the canyon walls. The Kethran broke and ran. Depot secure, Jinho reported as they planted explosives throughout the facility. All supplies destroyed. No human casualties. No casualties except the captain, Sora pointed out. She was examining Hyun-woo's wounds with worry. You're hurt. Bad, sir. Hyun-woo looked down at himself. She was right. His armor had multiple breach holes. His left arm wasn't working properly. His vision kept blurring from the head injury. I'm fine, he lied. But word of the raid spread quickly through both fleets. The human media called it another miracle. Hyun-woo had walked through concentrated alien fire and lived. Again. On the Kethran ships, the story took a darker tone. Soldiers whispered about the unending in their native tongue. Some claimed he was a human war demon that fed on battle. Others said he was proof that humans were touched by some dark magic. General Vextar watched the security footage from the depot in growing frustration. The human had taken direct hits from 4 different plasma rifles. Any one of those shots should have been fatal. Run the analysis again, he ordered his scientists. General, we have run it 17 times. Chief Researcher Kexion replied nervously. The energy readings are consistent. That human absorbed enough plasma discharge to kill a dozen normal beings. Then explain to me how he's still alive. Kexion pulled up comparative scans. We believe humans have redundant biological systems we never accounted for. Their bodies can function even when severely damaged. Combined with their psychological resistance to trauma, it creates an extremely difficult enemy to eliminate. Vextar studied the footage of Hyun-woo walking through plasma fire. The human's face was visible for a moment when his helmet cracked. There was no fear there. No doubt. Just grim determination to complete his mission. How many humans have displayed similar resistance to our weapons? Vexitar asked. The number is growing, General. Last week alone, we recorded 23 cases of humans surviving hits that should have been lethal. They seem to be learning from this one soldier's example. That was what truly worried Vextar. It wasn't just one freakishly tough human anymore. The legend of Captain Lee Hyun-woo was inspiring other humans to fight beyond their normal limits. Soldiers who heard his story became braver, more resilient, harder to kill. The psychological effect was spreading through human forces like a virus. And viruses, Vextar knew, could destroy entire civilizations. Double the guard on all our facilities, he ordered. And put a bounty on this human captain. I want him brought to me alive. Back on the human flagship, Dr. Yoon Mi-kyung was treating Hyun-woo's latest injuries. The plasma burns were severe, but they were healing faster than should have been possible. Your recovery rate is remarkable, she noted. Most soldiers would need weeks in the medical bay. You'll be ready for active duty in 3 days. I don't understand it either, Hyun-woo admitted. I just know that staying down isn't an option. Dr. Yoon ran another scan. Your brain chemistry is fascinating. When you're injured, your body produces massive amounts of healing factors and pain suppressors. It's like you've trained yourself to override normal human limitations. Or maybe I'm just too stupid to know when I'm beat. No, Dr. Yoon said seriously. You've become something new, and other humans are following your example. She showed him reports from across the front lines. Human soldiers were displaying unprecedented resilience. Casualties were down 30% from the previous month, not because they were avoiding combat, but because they were surviving wounds that used to be fatal. They call it the Hyun-woo effect in the medical journals, she explained. Soldiers who believe they can survive do survive because their bodies find ways to make belief into reality. Hyunwoo looked at the data with mixed feelings. He was proud that his example was helping other soldiers, but he worried about the pressure of living up to his own legend. "What if I fall?" he asked quietly. "What if they see that I can be killed like anyone else?" Dr. Yoon smiled. "Then you get back up and prove them wrong. That's what legends do." 3 days later, Hyunwoo was back in action. His team hit a Kethran communications relay on the moon of Titan 9. Once again, he walked through enemy fire. That should have killed him. Once again, he refused to fall. But this time, something was different. Private Kim So-ra took a plasma hit that would have put her down for weeks before Meridian Valley. Instead, she rolled behind cover, bandaged her wound, and kept fighting. "How do you feel?" Hyunwoo asked her after the mission. "Like I can take anything they throw at me," she replied with fierce pride. "Just like you taught us, Captain." Hyunwoo realized that he hadn't taught them anything directly. He had just shown them what was possible. And humans, he was learning, were very good at making the impossible seem routine. The legend of the unkillable soldier was becoming something bigger. It was becoming a new way for humanity to fight. A way that might actually let them win this war. The challenge came through official diplomatic channels. General Vextar wanted single combat with Captain Lee Hyunwoo. Winner takes the disputed Kepler system. No armies, no fleets. Just two warriors settling the question of which species was stronger. Commander Choi Dae-ho read the message with disbelief. "He wants to fight you personally? This is insane." Hyunwoo studied the tactical display showing Kethran fleet positions. Maybe. Or maybe he's tired of his soldiers being afraid of humans. Kill me in front of both fleets and he breaks our morale while restoring theirs. "You don't have to accept," Dr. Yoon Mi-kyung said from across the briefing room. "This isn't required by any military code." "Yes, it is," Hyunwoo replied quietly. "Not written code. But if I refuse, every human soldier will wonder if their unkillable captain is just scared of a real fight. And every Kethran will know that humans can be intimidated." Sergeant Park Jin-ho slammed his fist on the table. "Captain Vextar is 3 meters tall and weighs twice what you do. His personal armor can stop tank rounds. His weapons can level buildings. This isn't a fair fight." "None of our fights have been fair," Hyunwoo pointed out. "That's never stopped us before." The combat zone was chosen carefully, a barren asteroid between the two fleets, with artificial atmosphere generators providing breathable air. Both sides set up observation platforms where their crews could watch the battle. Camera drones would broadcast the fight across the galaxy. Hyunwoo suited up in his best armor, though he knew it wouldn't help much against Kethran weapons. Jin-ho helped him check his equipment one final time. "Don't try to be a hero," Jin-ho said. "Just survive long enough to find his weakness. What if he doesn't have one?" "Everyone has one. Even legends." Private Kim So-ra handed Hyunwoo his sidearm. "Sir, half the fleet is betting on you to win. The other half is betting on you to survive longer than anyone expects. Nobody thinks you're going to lose easy." Hyunwoo smiled grimly. "Then I guess I better not disappoint them." The transport dropped him on the asteroid's surface. The gravity was light, about half Earth normal. The terrain was rocky and broken, with plenty of cover. That might help. General Vextar was already waiting. Up close, the Kethran commander was even more intimidating than the intelligence photos suggested. His purple skin had a metallic sheen that spoke of cybernetic enhancements. His 4 eyes tracked independently, giving him nearly perfect peripheral vision. His armor was a work of art, flowing lines of alien metal that seemed to absorb light. "So," Vexitar said in accented English, "you are the human who will not die." "I'm the human who does his job," Hyunwoo replied. "Nothing more. Your people worship you like a god of war. They believe you cannot be killed. My people believe in doing what's right no matter the cost. I just happen to be good at paying high prices." Vextar hefted his massive plasma cannon. The weapon was easily 2 meters long and glowed with contained energy. "Today the price will be your life." The two warriors circled each other slowly. Hyunwoo's rifle looked like a toy compared to Vextar's cannon, but he had learned not to judge fights by appearance. You know, Hyunwoo said conversationally, your empire has conquered 17 star systems, but you've never fought humans before. You are not special, Vextar growled. Flesh is flesh, bone is bone. All beings break eventually. Maybe. But we're pretty good at refusing to break when it matters. Vextar fired first. The plasma bolt struck the ground where Hyunwoo had been standing, turning rock to molten glass. The human had rolled aside at the last second, his rifle already returning fire. The bullet sparked off Vextar's energy shield harmlessly. The alien general laughed and fired again. This time the bolt caught Hyunwoo in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing into a boulder. First blood to me, Vextar announced. Hyunwoo pushed himself to his feet. His left arm hung useless at his side and he could smell his own burnt flesh. But he was still standing. First blood, he agreed. Want to see the second? He charged, straight at the alien general. It was suicide by any tactical standard. Vextar had longer reach, better weapons, and superior armor, but Hyunwoo had learned that sometimes the impossible became possible if you just refused to accept reality. Vextar's second shot caught him center mass. The plasma bolt punched through his chest armor and sent him tumbling across the asteroid's surface. Emergency medical systems in his suit screamed warnings about critical damage. Hyunwoo got up anyway. How? Vextar demanded. His 4 eyes were wide with disbelief. How are you still moving? Because I have to be, Hyunwoo rasped through his helmet comm. Blood was filling his lungs, but he kept talking. Because my people are watching. Because your people need to see that humans don't quit. He raised his rifle with his one good arm and fired. The bullet found a joint in Vextar's armor, drawing purple blood. The alien general roared in rage and pain. He fired 3 more shots in quick succession. All 3 found their mark, tearing holes in Hyunwoo's armor and flesh. The human soldier fell to his knees, then to his side, then lay still on the rocky ground. It is finished, Vextar announced, to the watching fleets. But Hyunwoo wasn't finished. Somehow, impossibly, he pushed himself back to his feet. His armor was in ruins. Blood streamed from a dozen wounds. His rifle was cracked and sparking. By every medical standard, he should have been dead, but he was still standing. No, he said quietly. It isn't. The watching humans erupted in cheers that could be heard across the vacuum of space. On their ships, Kethran soldiers watched in growing terror as the human legend proved that he truly could not be killed. Vextar stepped backward. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something approaching fear. What are you? I'm a human, Hyunwoo replied. He started walking toward the alien general, each step an act of will over a body that wanted to collapse. We're the species that doesn't know when to quit. Vextar fired again. And again. Each shot found its mark, tearing new wounds in the advancing human. But Hyunwoo kept coming, step by bloody step. Finally, when they were only meters apart, Vextar raised his plasma cannon for a point-blank shot that would surely end the battle, but his hands were shaking now. The impossible human had gotten inside his head. Hyunwoo's broken rifle spoke one last time. The bullet punched through Vextar's weakened armor and found his primary heart. The alien general staggered, his cannon falling from nerveless fingers. Impossible, he whispered as he fell to his knees. You should be dead. Probably, Hyunwoo agreed. He swayed on his feet, held upright by willpower alone. But probably isn't good enough. Vextar collapsed and did not get up again. The greatest military commander in Kethran history was dead, killed by a human soldier who simply refused to fall down when logic said he should. Hyunwoo stood over his fallen enemy for a moment, then sat down heavily on a nearby rock. His vision was going dark around the edges. His suit's medical systems were screaming that he needed immediate evacuation. Medic, he called weakly into his radio. On the way, Captain, came Jin Ho's voice, tight with worry and pride. Medical teams are already launching. As the rescue ships approached, Hyunwoo looked up at the human fleet hanging in space above him. Thousands of his fellow soldiers were watching, cheering, knowing that their captain had done the impossible once again. He had walked through enough firepower to kill a platoon and lived. He had faced the enemy's greatest champion and won. He had proven that human determination could overcome any technological advantage. But most importantly, he had shown every human in the galaxy that refusing to quit wasn't just possible. It was the key to winning a war that everyone said they couldn't win. As consciousness faded, Hyunwoo's last thought was simple. His people needed 6 more months to complete the evacuation of the outer colonies. He had bought them 6 months with this fight. It was a good trade. Captain Lee Hyunwoo woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed he was becoming far too familiar with. Dr. Yoon Mi-kyung was there, as usual, running scans and checking readings with the dedication of someone trying to solve the galaxy's greatest mystery. "How do you feel?" she asked without looking up from her instruments. Hyunwoo took inventory of his body. Everything hurt, but in a distant way, like pain happening to someone else. His chest was wrapped in regenerative bandages. His left arm was in a biostabilizer. Multiple IV tubes fed healing compounds into his bloodstream. "Like I got hit by a starship," he said honestly. "How bad was it this time?" Dr. Yoon finally met his eyes. "You died twice on the operating table. Your heart stopped for 4 minutes during the first surgery. We had to replace 3 organs with synthetic ones and regrow most of your left lung. By any medical standard, you should not be having this conversation. But here I am. Here you are." She pulled up a chair beside his bed. "Hyunwoo, I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. How do you keep doing this? What keeps you fighting when your body should have given up?" Hyunwoo thought about it. The question had been bothering him too. He wasn't superhuman. He felt fear like anyone else. Pain like anyone else. So why could he keep standing when others fell? "I think about the people counting on me," he said slowly. "Jin-ho and Sora and the rest of my team. The civilians we're trying to protect. The soldiers watching to see if humans can really win this war. Every time I want to fall down, I remember that giving up means letting them down." "It's more than that," Dr. Yoon said. "I've been studying your brain patterns for months now. When you're under extreme stress, your neural activity changes. Parts of your brain that normally limit physical performance just shut off. You somehow override your body's safety mechanisms." She showed him brain scans from before and during the fight with Vextar. The differences were dramatic. Whole regions that usually prevented people from pushing beyond safe limits had gone quiet, while areas associated with determination and pain tolerance lit up like stars. "This is unprecedented," she continued. "You've essentially trained yourself to ignore death, and somehow that mental state triggers physical changes that help you survive what should be fatal injuries." Commander Choi Dai-ho entered the medical bay, followed by several other officers. All of them looked at Hyunwoo with expressions mixing respect, amazement, and something approaching awe. "Captain," Choi said formally, "I've come to give you a report on the aftermath of your fight with General Vextar. Did it help? Was it worth it?" Choi smiled, the first genuine smile Hyunwoo had seen from him in months. "The Kethran fleet has withdrawn from 7-star systems. 3 of their regional commanders have requested transfers rather than face human forces. Intelligence reports that morale across their empire is at an all-time low. And our side? Recruitment is up 400%. Every human colony wants to send volunteers to the fleet. The story of your fight has spread to every world in human space. People are calling it proof that we can win this war." One of the other officers, Colonel Nam Kaite, stepped forward. "Captain, we've documented 47 cases in the past week alone of human soldiers surviving injuries that should have been fatal. The medical corps is calling it the Hyunwoo Protocol." "The what?" Dr. Yoon explained. "Soldiers who have seen your example, who believe they can survive like you do, are actually surviving at unprecedented rates. Their minds are overriding their body's normal limitations, just like yours does. It's becoming a teachable skill." Hyunwoo absorbed this information. "So other people can do what I do?" "Not exactly what you do, But they can push beyond normal human limits when they truly believe it's necessary. You've shown them it's possible, and that's half the battle. Over the following weeks, as Hyun-woo recovered from his injuries, reports continued to come in from across the war zone. Human forces that had been retreating for months were suddenly holding ground. Soldiers who would have been evacuated with severe wounds were staying in the fight. The psychological effect of the unkillable captain was changing the entire nature of the conflict, but the most interesting reports came from captured Kethran prisoners. "They're terrified," reported intelligence officer Lee Sun-mi during a briefing. "They think humans are some kind of supernatural species. A few of the prisoners actually asked if you were still dead, like they expected you to come back to life if they waited long enough." Hyun-woo almost laughed. "I'm not immortal. I just heal fast." To them, there's no difference. They've spent 300 years conquering species that follow logical patterns. When you take enough damage, you die. When your weapons are outmatched, you surrender. When your situation is hopeless, you retreat. But humans don't follow those patterns. She showed them interrogation footage of a Kethran officer. "The human captain should have died from the first shot," the alien was saying. "But he kept fighting. Then he should have died from the second shot, still fighting. By the fourth shot, we knew we were facing something beyond our understanding. How do you defeat an enemy that refuses to acknowledge defeat?" The question hung in the air. It was the same question the Kethran Empire was asking itself across 17 star systems. Dr. Yoon had been working with military scientists to understand and replicate Hyun-woo's abilities. Their preliminary findings were remarkable. "We've identified the key factors," she reported to the medical team. "First, absolute belief in the necessity of survival. Second, complete psychological commitment to the mission. Third, and this is crucial, a support network that reinforces the soldiers' sense of responsibility to others." "You mean they fight harder when they know people are counting on them?" "Exactly. Humans are social creatures. We draw strength from our connections to others. When a soldier truly believes that falling means letting their team down, their body finds ways to keep them fighting that we're only beginning to understand." They started teaching these principles to new recruits. The program was called Determination Protocol, and its results were immediate and dramatic. Sergeant Park Jin-ho was among the first to master the techniques. During a raid on a Kethran weapons facility, he took a plasma bolt to the chest that should have killed him instantly. Instead, he used the injury as motivation, channeling his rage and determination into a berserker assault that cleared an entire enemy bunker. "I kept thinking about the captain," he reported afterward. "How he never gives up no matter what they throw at him. I figured if he can take 4 shots and keep fighting, I can handle 1. Private Kim Sora had a similar experience. Her sniper position was overrun by Kethran assault troops. She took multiple hits while fighting her way out, injuries that would have incapacitated most soldiers. But she kept moving, kept shooting, kept completing her mission. "It's like the captain always says," she explained to Dr. Yoon during her medical exam. "Pain is temporary, but letting your team down lasts forever. When you really believe that, your body finds ways to keep going." The effect spread beyond Hyun-woo's original unit. Soldiers who had never met him personally began displaying the same impossible resilience. They had heard the stories, seen the footage, and decided that if one human could refuse to fall, so could they. The Kethran response was swift and brutal. Unable to understand how humans were surviving their weapons, they began using increasingly powerful attacks, orbital bombardments, chemical weapons, biological warfare. Nothing seemed to break human resistance. In fact, the increased pressure seemed to make humans fight harder. "It's counterintuitive," reported Kethran Field Commander Zekval to his superiors. "Every other species we've conquered became demoralized. When casualties mounted, humans become more determined. The worse their situation gets, the more fiercely they resist." Back on the human flagship, Hyun-woo was finally cleared for active duty. His body bore new scars from the fight with Vextar, but his mind was clearer than ever. He understood now what he represented to his people, not just a soldier, but proof of what humans could accomplish when they refused to accept defeat. "I want to address the fleet," he told Commander Choi. The broadcast went out to every human ship in the war zone. Thousands of soldiers gathered around view screens to hear from the legend himself. Hyunwoo kept his message simple. "I'm not special," he said. "I'm not superhuman. I'm not immortal. I'm just a soldier who decided that falling down isn't an option when people are counting on me, and every single one of you can make the same decision." He held up his scarred hands. "These wounds don't make me weak. They remind me what I'm fighting for. Every hit I take, every injury I survive, it's proof that humans don't break easy, and when the aliens see that we won't break, they start to wonder if they can really win this war." The response was electric. Across the fleet, soldiers stood straighter, looked stronger, believed more deeply in their cause and their ability to see it through. "The Kethran Empire thinks we're just another species to be conquered," Hyunwoo continued. "They're about to learn that humans are different. We don't surrender when the odds are bad. We don't retreat when we're outnumbered. We don't die when they think we should. We just keep fighting until job is done." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "So when they shoot you, get back up. When they hurt you, use it as fuel. When they—" 1 year after the death of General Vextar, the Kethran Empire sent a message that shocked both species. They wanted to negotiate a ceasefire. Captain Lee Hyunwoo read the diplomatic transmission in Commander Choi's office, surrounded by the Yao, senior staff who had become his extended family over the long months of war. "They're offering to withdraw from human space entirely," Choi explained. "Full recognition of our territorial claims, trade agreements, even technology sharing." Sergeant Park Jin-ho, now promoted to lieutenant, shook his head in amazement. "A year ago they were going to wipe us out. Now they want to be friends?" "Not friends," corrected Dr. Yoon Mi-kyung, who had become the fleet's expert on alien psychology. "They want to avoid making us into enemies. There's a difference." She pulled up intelligence reports from across Kethran space. Their empire is facing rebellions on 6 different worlds. Species they conquered years ago have heard about human resistance and decided to try fighting back. The psychological effect of our impossible victories is spreading beyond our own forces. Private Kim Sora, now a sergeant herself, smiled grimly. "So we didn't just save ourselves. We gave other people hope too." Hyunwoo studied the star maps showing Kethran territorial withdrawals. The alien empire that had seemed unstoppable 2 years ago was contracting rapidly. Not because they lacked military power, but because they could no longer rely on fear to keep their conquered populations in line. "What do you think, Captain?" Choi asked. "Do we accept their offer?" Before answering, Hyunwoo thought about all the soldiers who hadn't made it home, all the civilians who had died in the early stages of the war, all the people who had believed in the dream of human independence even when it seemed impossible. "We accept," he said finally. "But with conditions. They withdraw completely from the Outer Rim territories. They provide reparations for war damages, and they formally acknowledge that humans are not to be conquered by anyone. They won't like that last part. They don't have to like it. They just have to live with it." The peace negotiations took place on a neutral space station. Hyunwoo attended as the official representative of human military forces. His presence alone was enough to unsettle the Kethran delegation. They kept staring at him like he was some kind of mythical creature brought to life. The new Kethran military commander, General Texmiran, was younger than Vextar had been. Less arrogant, more careful. "Your reputation precedes you, Captain Lee," he said in perfect English. "My people call you many names. The unending, the iron human, the one who will not fall." "I prefer Captain," Hyunwoo replied mildly. "Indeed. May I ask you a question, purely for academic interest?" "Go ahead. How did you survive so many attacks that should have killed you? Our scientists have studied the footage for months. By every calculation, we know you should have died in that first battle at Meridian Valley." Hyunwoo considered the question. Over the past year, he had asked himself the same thing many times. The answer wasn't simple, but it was true. "I survived because I had to," he said. "Because people were counting on me. Because giving up wasn't an option. Your weapons are designed to kill logical beings who accept death when it comes. But humans aren't always logical. Sometimes we're too stubborn to die when we're supposed. Texmira nodded slowly. And this stubbornness? It can be taught to other humans? Every human has it already. We just had to remember how to use it. The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Kethron Empire formally ended hostilities with humanity and began the long process of military withdrawal from disputed territories. It wasn't a complete victory for either side, but it was peace. 6 months after the peace treaty, Hyunwoo found himself in a very different kind of meeting. The human military had asked him to establish a new training program based on the techniques that had won the war. The Determination Protocol Academy was built on New Earth, humanity's newest colony world. Young soldiers came from across human space to learn from the man who had redefined what it meant to be human in combat. The first thing you need to understand, Hyunwoo told his new class of recruits, is that being unbreakable isn't about not feeling pain. It's about deciding that the pain doesn't matter as much as the mission. Lieutenant Park Jin-ho assisted with the training. He had survived 17 major battles after learning to fight like his captain. Sergeant Kim So-ra taught marksmanship and tactical awareness. Both of them carried scars from wounds that should have ended their careers, but they wore those scars like badges of honor. The captain taught us that falling down is just something that happens. Jin-ho explained to the recruits. Getting back up is a choice, and humans always have the option to choose to get back up. The program's success was immediate and dramatic. Graduates of the academy displayed the same impossible resilience that had characterized Hyunwoo's original unit. They survived injuries that put them in medical textbooks. They completed missions that military historians called impossible. They became living proof that human determination was a weapon no alien technology could overcome. But perhaps more importantly, they inspired others. Dr. Yoon-mi Kyung published her research on human psychological resilience. The paper became required reading at military academies across known space. Other species began studying human combat techniques, trying to understand how beings with relatively primitive technology had defeated one of the galaxy's great empires. Humans possess a unique combination of social bonding, pain tolerance, and psychological flexibility, her paper concluded. When properly motivated, they can function far beyond normal biological limits. This represents a new form of warfare based not on technological superiority, but on sheer force of will. 5 years after Meridian Valley, Hyunwoo stood in the memorial garden dedicated to soldiers lost in the Kethron War. The names of thousands of human fighters were carved into black stone walls that reflected the light of New Earth's twin suns. He came here often, especially when new reports arrived about other conflicts across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered for generations were rising up, inspired by stories of human resistance. The Kethron Empire continued to shrink as more worlds demanded independence. Penny for your thoughts, Captain? Hyunwoo turned to see Jin-ho, approaching now a full colonel and commandant of the academy. His old friend had aged well, though his hair showed gray at the temples and his face bore the lines of someone who had seen too much combat. Just thinking about how it all started, Hyunwoo said. One battle, one moment when I decided I couldn't fall down. And look what came from it. An entire generation of soldiers who know they can't be broken. A peace treaty with the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Hope for enslaved species everywhere. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Two old soldiers remembering friends who hadn't lived to see the victory they had died to achieve. Do you ever regret it? Jin-ho asked. Becoming a symbol instead of just a soldier? Hyunwoo considered the question. His life had become something he never expected. Speeches to politicians, interviews with historians, ceremonies where he was treated more like a force of nature than a human being. Sometimes he missed the simplicity of just being Captain Lee, squad leader and soldier. No, he said finally, because it worked. We won a war everyone said we couldn't win. We saved millions of lives. We showed the galaxy that humans aren't just another species to be pushed around. A young cadet approached them hesitantly. She wore the uniform of the academy, her insignia marking her as a recent graduate. Captain Lee? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to thank you. For what? for showing us what's possible. My home world was attacked by raiders last month. The local garrison was outnumbered 10-1. But we held them off because we remembered your example. When they told us to surrender, we told them humans don't quit. She saluted crisply and walked away. Hyunwoo watched her go with a mixture of pride and responsibility. Somewhere out there, other young soldiers were facing impossible odds with nothing but determination and the belief that humans could overcome anything. That's why, he said to Jinho, that's why it was all worth it. As the twin suns set over New Earth, Captain Lee Hyunwoo walked home through streets filled with humans who had never known the fear of conquest. Children played in parks that might have been alien military bases if not for one soldier's refusal to fall down when he was supposed to. Behind him, carved in stone, were the names of heroes who had died believing that freedom was worth any price. Ahead of him stretched a future where humanity would never again be seen as weak or easily conquered. And in training academies across human space, new generations of soldiers learned the most important lesson of the war. The strongest weapon in the universe isn't something you carry, it's something you are. The end of one story. The beginning of a legend that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.